guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with a video about all the romances I'm currently super obsessed with. So this is over the past 2 months, what books I've read that I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to pick this up, 5 stars, I'm obsessed. I have not done this video in a while because I have not had a ton of romances that I've been obsessed with lately, which is really sad because I am already feeling a little slumpy because I'm not reading as much as I used to, but also I want to love these books but don't. And I don't know if it's because I'm just not in the mood for them or what, but there have been a handful that I am just like, oh my gosh, this is so good, you have to read it. So I will go ahead and get to my recommendations of books that I'm absolutely obsessed with right now. So the first one I feel like is a little, not controversial, but I feel like a lot of people have mixed feelings on this. When I read it, I feel like it was done very well, and I feel like people had different expectations, and if it wasn't written exactly as they wanted, they didn't love it. So that is King of Greed by Anna Huang. I got to read an arc of this, and I did receive a copy from Bloom, which is so pretty, and I love this one. Mom's obsessed with work. So this is King of Greed. So he has done everything in his power to get wealthy and succeed, and so he has literally dedicated his life to his job. Alessandra is his wife, and they've been married for 10 years, and she just feels like he is not there for her anymore. And finally, there is one last straw, and she's like, I want a divorce. And people complain that she should have just like come clean about how she was feeling in the beginning, but I am someone who definitely avoids confrontation, so I definitely understand where she's coming from, where not everybody's just going to be upfront and honest about what they want in a relationship, and or if they're feeling like disappointed in someone, because that's a very hard conversation to have. And so I felt like what she did was very realistic in this sense, but he is like freaking out, and he's like, oh my god, I'm gonna literally lose the love of my life. And so he tries to win her back, and I really liked it. It's a very different kind of groveling than what Anna Huang has done in the past, which I also think that doesn't help people if they're comparing it to past books, but I give this one 5 stars. I thought it was very angsty, and we had a very, very desperate man ready to literally drop everything and give his woman the world. So I had fun reading this. This is a new release, so check it out if you have the chance. The next one's actually a novella, which I usually don't love novellas, but this one was so good. It's a historical novella called The Phantom of Drury Lane by Kate Bateman. This one I read on recommendation from Christy Reads a Lot. I saw she loved it, and I was like, okay, fine, I'm buying it. So I bought the ebook, and this one is about a woman who has been in love with her brother's best friend for a while. They grew up together, they shared a kiss in their past, but he immediately shuts her down and pushes her away. So she's like, fine, I don't need you. So she goes abroad, and now she's back, and he owns this theater now, and there's a ghost haunting the theater who has this box. He wears this mask, and the hero was actually in Waterloo, and he got injured, so he has a scar on his face, and so he bets her that she can't find who this ghost is, and there is a reward the theater's giving out, and she's like, oh, it's just probably because they want more patrons, and he's like, well, we'll see. So she tries to find the ghost. Also realize that they have never gotten rid of their feelings for each other, and I loved the hero and how obsessed he was with the heroine. It was so good. It was so fun. It was very fast paced, but I feel like it didn't go too fast, and it just like felt very nicely developed for a novella, and I didn't feel like it needed more or needed less. It was perfect. I loved it. Okay, we're gonna go into another Anna Huang because I did a video where I finished series that I was in the middle of, and I finished 3 series, though another book came out in one of them, so I'm not finished with that series anymore. If you've been watching me, you know I am so bad at finishing series. I know that is a flaw of mine, but I finally finished the Twisted series, and this one's my favorite book in the series, if not my favorite book by Anna Huang. This one is so good. Christian is very stoic, and it's just very hard to read, and so the heroine needs some way to get more social media followers. So she's a social media influencer, she gets fired from her job, and now she's relying on this, and she really wants this big contract with a company, and she though is competing with people who are couples, and she's like, if you're a couple, you end up blowing up. Both of you blow up. People love couples, people love love, they love romance. So she's like, maybe I should fake date someone or find a boyfriend, and then Christian offers to fake date her. He is this billionaire guy, he owns a couple companies, and she decides to agree. So they're fake dating, and she immediately starts exploding, but also she is starting to fall for Christian. She has to tell her parents she is dating someone too, and there's a whole storyline with there, and Christian is so overprotective of her. She does have a stalker. She had a stalker in the past, and now the stalker is back, and she is scared, and Christian literally is touch her and you die. He will literally kill anybody who touches her. Very mafia, which I loved. So this one, it was very, very slow burn too, but you were obsessed. At least I was. So favorite in the series, and I think it might be the longest, but I had so much fun reading it. Highly recommend. Then we have one by a favorite author of mine, and that is Shadows of You by Catherine Cowles. This came out recently. It's still in the top, I think, 20 on Amazon now. It's been out for a week now, and I was sent this gorgeous hardback edition from the author. I love her so much. This one is Roan's book, and the reception I've been seeing for this book is unlike any book she's ever read. People are obsessed with this, which makes me so happy because I loved Roan's book. This is tied now for my favorite in the series. Roan was actually accused of murder when he was younger. So the first book of the series, there's a mass shooting where there are people who are going all around town killing people, and so they don't know who they are, and they immediately think of Roan. So he is just like so scarred from that experience of people not believing in him, and so he immediately shuts everybody out, and he's done that. He's very reclusive. He doesn't like to talk to people, but Aspen is a single mom, and she's newer to town, and she's running from a past that she's keeping hidden from people, and she works in the town like cafe, bakery, coffee shop, and someone is not leaving her alone, and so Roan offers to stay with her, and the story goes from there. The meet cute is hilarious. The single parent aspect is so strong in here because Roan is so in love with her family. He really takes a shine to Katie, her daughter, and Katie has to deal with some bullies at ballet class, and Roan literally bends over backwards to give this girl what she wants. And I loved how just he really truly loved her daughter and wanted to be there for her and give her the world, and it was so sweet. And I obviously love the romance, and the romantic suspense was so good. The way I did not see any of it coming at all. I felt bamboozled. Like, I was like, excuse me. So this one was fabulous. Loved it. Definitely pick this up. I also have Salt in the Wound by Sierra Simone. I have not yet read Salt Kiss, so this is going to be the novella prior to Salt Kiss. I just love Sierra Simone's writing. It's so beautiful and lyrical, and she has such an interesting take on things, specifically religion. So the heroine in here wants to be a nun, and she has dedicated her whole life to wanting to be one, even though she has to go to college to appease her dad and major in something her dad wants her to. Her dad is a banker, and so she is ready to dedicate herself to the church, but she also is trained in combat because I think it's either her uncle or her godfather. I don't remember how he's related to her. Her relative is part of the church, and he is like someone who goes out and gets things from people. So she is also very inspired by him. And then her dad says, you are marrying someone that I need a connection with. So that is our hero, who is the owner of a sex club. And so she's gonna have to do things with him publicly, and she finds herself wanting to do those, but she's very conflicted because she's like, I want to be a nun, but like I'm kind of sexually attracted to this guy, and I want to do things with him, so what do I do? And then apparently it's going to be a relationship with her bodyguard as well. So the bodyguard enters the picture at the very end, and I'm so intrigued by the setup of this story. I cannot wait to read the actual book, but if you haven't picked this one up yet, pick up the prequel novella. A surprising one for me was The Love Plot by Samantha Young, not because of the author. I love Samantha Young, but I thought this was going to be very rom-com-y, and I'm not super into rom-coms, but I had a friend read it and said she loved it, so I was like, okay, the audio came in, I'll read it. It was so good. The hero's a vet, and his family is so obsessed with setting him up with people that they hound him. Like, they give his number out to everybody. People are constantly calling him. He's like, stop this. Like, stop. And the heroine is very interesting because she is a professional line sitter and character actor. So she goes to parties and she acts as characters, and she's hired by things, and she had a very like open, free childhood where her parents like don't believe in a lot of like restricted things, and they're like never around, so like they weren't really good parents either. So she is at a party and she meets him, and he decides to hire her to be his girlfriend, so his family stops doing like setting him up with everybody, and so they start fake dating, and obviously they start falling in love. And then where the real conflict comes in though is when they decide to be serious, because his family is so opposite of her, and she doesn't know she wants to change to fit into his family. And I loved everything about this book. It was so good. I loved the hero and his character, and it was definitely a much more serious book than I thought the cover would be. It's not like super serious, but it's reflecting on a lot of like your life choices and what makes you happy and what kind of life you want and what is actually fulfilling versus what needs to pay the bills. And I really enjoyed their romance as well, so definitely recommend. I I also have an Earl to Remember by Stacey Reed. I've seen a bit of conflicting feelings of this one, but I loved it. It was just so fun, and I haven't really loved a historical in a while. So when I was listening to this audiobook, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm obsessed. This one is an overboard retelling. The heroine's a chef. She gets hired on this yacht, and she gets fired because she makes the mistress upset because she ended up going to the hero's room to deliver something. He thinks that she's there as a friend of his mistress's, and so she's horrified, and then the mistress gets mad, and so he fires her. So she's angry, but the mistress is still mad and knocks him overboard. He washes up into the heroine's town, no memory of who he is, but he remembers doing things with the heroine, like physically. So he says that out loud, and the heroine's like, you're gonna ruin my reputation, blurts out that they are married. He has to act like her husband and take care of things around the house, and he also knows like he's not a laborer because he's an Earl, and he's like, this is weird, but he keeps on doing that stuff, and she is actually raising her sisters because their parents passed away. So that is the premise, and it is so fun. It is so good. And he always says my wife. Like, he knows something is fishy, but he always calls her my wife, and I love this book so much. I could not put it down. Highly recommend. And the last book I have is Tempting the Player by Rebecca Genshak. This one is a bodyguard romance, and it definitely reminded me of The First Daughter, the movie. So this one, the heroine was an actress, and she's in the music industry too, and so it came out who she is, and so people are paying attention to her, and she has a stalker. So her parents are very concerned, and they end up hiring a bodyguard without telling her. So she sees this guy around a lot. He's super cute. He's a little bit older. He used to play football, and now he's in private security, but he doesn't tell her that. He's living in town because he's taking care of his brothers because their parents died, and so I think he has 4 brothers, I think, and he had left them when their parents died to go play football, so he feels like they resent him a little bit, and he definitely feels guilty about leaving them, so he's trying to make up for it, and he is her bodyguard. She does not know. She figures out pretty early on in the beginning, so that's not like a super big deal in the book, but I really enjoyed this one. She definitely doesn't want him around when she figures out he's a bodyguard, and he is trying to keep things professional because he's hired by her parents, but then like obviously he's falling for her too, and I loved his brothers. I love that whole storyline as well, and it just was such a good romance, and I highly recommend checking this one out. I'll also say for the Rebecca Genshak, I did not read the previous books in the series. They can definitely be read as a standalone. And those are the books that I'm currently obsessed with lately. Let me know what you've been obsessed with, or if you've read these books. I would love to hear, and that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.